Don't sign that contract. The words tear through the executive boardroom like a lightning strike. 50 heads turn in perfect synchronization toward the doorway, where Marcus Reed stands, his janitor's mop still dripping onto the pristine marble floor. Victoria Sterling, CEO of Apex Industries, freezes with her Mont Blanc pen hovering inches above the merger documents. Her ice-blue eyes narrow as they take in the sight of this maintenance worker who dares interrupt the most important meeting of the quarter. Alexander Blackwood, the company's CFO, rises from his chair with practiced elegance. His smile is razor-sharp as he addresses the room. "Security, please escort this gentleman back to his cleaning duties. We have serious business to conduct here." If you're enjoying this story about hidden champions and second chances, please consider subscribing to hear more tales of underdogs who rise above their circumstances. Your support helps us bring these inspiring narratives to life. Marcus doesn't move as two security guards approach. His eyes remain locked on Victoria's face. "Miss Sterling, you're about to make a terrible mistake. That man is not who you think he is." His voice carries an urgency that makes several board members shift uncomfortably in their seats. "How dare you?" Victoria stands, her 5'8" frame commanding despite the 4-inch heels. The morning light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows catches the auburn highlights in her perfectly styled hair. "You're a janitor who's worked here for what, 3 months? You know nothing about our business dealings or my personal life. Alexander and I are getting married next month, and this merger will secure Apex Industries' future for the next decade." The room falls silent except for the distant hum of the air conditioning. Marcus can feel the weight of 50 pairs of eyes judging him, dismissing him as nothing more than the help who's forgotten his place. But he saw what he saw this morning at 7:45. He heard Alexander's phone conversation while cleaning the adjacent conference room. "After the wedding, I'll have 51% control," Alexander had said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. "She'll be out within 6 months, and the company will be mine." Marcus takes a deep breath, knowing what he's about to risk. His job, his dignity, the stability he's fought so hard to maintain for Sophie. Ask him about the Blackstone acquisition. Ask him why Jennifer Morrison and Catherine Chen both lost their companies within a year of marrying him. Alexander's perfect composure cracks for just a millisecond. It's barely noticeable, but Marcus catches it, and so does Elena Martinez, Victoria's best friend and head legal counsel, who sits at the far end of the table. Elena's fingers move subtly across her tablet, already beginning a search. "This is ridiculous." Alexander moves closer to Victoria, his hand finding the small of her back, in a gesture that appears supportive, but carries an undertone of possession. "Darling, you're really going to let a jealous janitor disrupt our announcement? Look at him. He's clearly disturbed. Probably hasn't slept properly in days." It's true that Marcus looks exhausted. His uniform is wrinkled from the early morning shift, and there are dark circles under his brown eyes from staying up with Sophie during her latest bout of illness. But his stance is firm, his jaw set with determination. He's faced worse odds than a room full of executives. Victoria studies him for a long moment, and something in his expression gives her pause. There's an intelligence in his eyes that doesn't match his current position, a bearing that suggests he's comfortable with confrontation. "You have 30 seconds to explain yourself before I have you escorted out and fired. Choose your words carefully." Marcus straightens his shoulders. "I overheard Mr. Blackwood on the phone this morning discussing how he plans to take control of your company after your marriage. This isn't about love, Miss Sterling. It's about a hostile takeover dressed up in a wedding gown." The boardroom erupts in whispers. Several executives lean forward, suddenly very interested in this unexpected drama. Alexander's laugh cuts through the noise, but it sounds forced. "This is absurd. Victoria, darling, Surely you're not going to believe the fantasies of a man who pushes a mop for a living? Victoria's expression is unreadable as she looks between the two men. One in a $3,000 suit, the other in a faded blue uniform with his name stitched on the pocket. You're right, Alexander. This is absurd. She pauses, and Marcus feels his heart sink, which is why I'm going to make this interesting. She walks around the massive conference table, her heels clicking against the floor with each deliberate step. When she reaches the center of the room, she turns to face everyone. Since our janitor friend here seems so concerned about my welfare and so convinced that Alexander isn't worthy of me, let's put it to the test. Alexander, you've been bragging about your tennis skills since we started dating. Alexander nods, his confidence returning. Division I at Harvard, sweetheart, you know that. And you, Victoria turns to Marcus. Do you play tennis? Marcus feels the weight of the question. He could lie, could say no, and walk away from this entire situation. But Sophie's face flashes in his mind, her worried expression when she asked him this morning why he looked so sad. She deserves a father who stands up for what's right, even when it's terrifying. I've played a little, he says quietly. Victoria's smile is sharp enough to cut glass. Perfect. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. sharp on the company tennis court. If you win a single set against Alexander, I'll call off the engagement and investigate your claims. If you lose, you're fired immediately and banned from ever setting foot on Apex property again. Do we have a deal? Elena stands up from her chair. Victoria, this is highly irregular. We should handle this through proper channels. No. Victoria cuts her off, her eyes never leaving Marcus. I want to see what our concerned janitor is made of. After all, if he's so worried about my future, surely he won't mind putting his own on the line. What do you say, Mr. Reed? Marcus thinks about his meager savings account, about Sophie's medical bills, about the tiny apartment they can barely afford. Then he thinks about Alexander's smug smile and the predatory way he looks at Victoria when she's not watching. I accept. Alexander's grin widens. This will be entertaining. I hope you have a good backup plan for employment, janitor. You're going to need it. As the meeting disperses, Marcus catches Elena's eye. She gives him the slightest nod, and he knows she'll be doing her own investigation. He heads back to his supply closet, his hands shaking as he pulls out his phone to text Mrs. Patterson, Sophie's babysitter. He'll need her to stay late tonight. In the back of the closet, hidden behind boxes of cleaning supplies, is a battered tennis bag he hasn't touched in 3 years. Inside, wrapped in an old towel, is his Wilson Pro staff, the same model he used when he was ranked 15th in the world. The grip is worn, the strings need replacing, but holding it feels like coming home. It also feels like reopening a wound that never properly healed. That evening, Marcus stands in the dim light of the public tennis court, 6 blocks from his apartment. Old Thomas, the senior janitor, who's become his unlikely friend, tosses balls from a grocery bag. You sure about this, son? That Blackwood fellow doesn't seem like the type to play fair. Marcus's forehand connects with the ball, sending it screaming down the line. Even after 3 years, the muscle memory is there, buried, but not forgotten. I don't have a choice, Thomas. That man is dangerous. I've seen his type before, charming on the outside, but rotten at the core. Victoria deserves better. Maybe she does. Thomas retrieves another ball from his bag. But what about Sophie? What happens to her if you lose your job? Marcus pauses mid-swing. Sophie is everything to him, has been since the day Rachel died. She was only 5 then, too young to understand why Mommy wasn't coming home from the hospital, too young to understand why Daddy stopped playing tennis and started cleaning buildings at night. Sophie needs a father she can be proud of, Marcus finally says. not one who looks the other way when he sees someone in trouble. They practice until 11 p.m., when the court lights automatically shut off. Marcus's shoulder aches, and his hands have fresh blisters forming over old calluses, but his strokes are starting to come back. Thomas watches him pack up, concern etched on his weathered face. "You haven't told me the whole story, have you? About who you really were?" Marcus zips up the tennis bag. "It doesn't matter who I was. Tomorrow, I'm just a janitor who needs to win one set. That's all." But as he walks home through the quiet streets, Marcus knows it's not that simple. Alexander Blackwood isn't just some recreational player. He'd done his research during his lunch break, finding videos of Alexander's recent club matches. The man is good, very good, and he plays to win at any cost. Back at his apartment, Sophie is still awake despite the late hour. She's curled up on the couch with her sketchbook, drawing something with intense concentration. "Daddy!" She jumps up when he enters. "Mrs. Patterson said you have something important tomorrow. Is everything okay?" Marcus kneels down to her level, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. "Everything's going to be fine, sweetheart. Daddy just has to play a tennis match tomorrow. No big deal." Sophie's eyes widen. "Tennis? But you don't play tennis anymore. You said it made you too sad because it reminds you of Mommy." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Rachel had been his biggest supporter, traveling to every tournament, cheering from the stands, even when he lost. She'd been there for his breakthrough win at Indian Wells. She'd held him when he lost in the Wimbledon quarterfinals. And she'd been diagnosed with cancer just 2 weeks after that loss, changing everything. "Sometimes," Marcus says carefully, "we have to do things that make us sad, if it means protecting people who need our help." Sophie considers this with the seriousness only an 8-year-old can muster. "Like when I had to get shots, even though I was scared because it would make me better?" "Exactly like that, sweetheart." She hugs him tight. "Then you'll win, Daddy. You always do the right thing, even when it's hard. That's what makes you a hero." Marcus holds her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Tomorrow, he'll either be her hero or unemployed. There's no middle ground. Later, after Sophie is asleep, Marcus sits at his small kitchen table with his laptop. He pulls up old footage of his matches, trying to remember what it felt like to be that person. The 25-year-old on the screen moves with fluid grace, every shot deliberate, every point a battle. But that person had everything to gain. Now, Marcus has everything to lose. His phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. When he opens it, his blood runs cold. It's a photo of Sophie at her school, taken from across the street. The message below reads, "Accidents happen to little girls whose fathers don't mind their own business. Withdraw from tomorrow's match." Marcus's hands shake as he screenshots the message. Then another text arrives, this time from Elena. "Found something interesting about Alexander. Can't put in writing. Meet me at the court early tomorrow." And Marcus, "Be careful." He deletes both messages and checks the locks on his doors and windows. Then he sits by Sophie's door until dawn, watching over her like a guardian angel who's forgotten how to fly but refuses to stop protecting heaven. The next morning arrives with unusual heat for October. By 8:30, the Apex Industries tennis court is surrounded by employees who've heard about the unusual challenge. Someone has started a betting pool. The odds are 100 to 1 against the janitor. Marcus arrives in borrowed clothes from the lost and found, a mismatched outfit that draws snickers from the gathering crowd. Alexander, by contrast, looks like he stepped out of a tennis magazine, his white Nike ensemble pristine, his Babolat racket costing more than Marcus makes in a month. Elena intercepts Marcus before he reaches the court. "I found records of 2 bankruptcies following Alexander's previous, Marriages, but everything's been legally scrubbed. Be careful. He's more dangerous than Victoria realizes. Also, she lowers her voice. Someone saw him near your daughter's school yesterday. Marcus's jaw tightens, but before he can respond, Victoria appears. She's dressed in a simple black dress that manages to be both professional and stunning. Her expression is cold as she addresses the crowd. Thank you all for your interest in this morning's entertainment. The rules are simple. First to win 2 out of 3 sets takes the victory. Marcus, are you ready to back up your accusations? I'm ready, Marcus says, meeting her gaze steadily. Alexander steps onto the court, bouncing on his toes like a boxer. Let's make this quick, Janitor. I have a company to help run, and you have toilets to clean. They warm up for 5 minutes, and Marcus can feel the crowd's attention shift. His strokes are smoother than expected, his movement more coordinated than a janitor should possess. Alexander notices too. His easy confidence falters slightly. Interesting form for someone who plays a little, Alexander says, as they meet at the net for the coin toss. Marcus wins the toss and elects to serve. As he walks to the baseline, he spots Sophie in the crowd, holding a small handmade sign that reads, "My dad is a hero," in purple marker. Old Thomas stands beside her, having brought her despite Marcus's instructions to keep her away. She waves at him, and he realizes he can't hide anymore. The first serve is tentative, landing softly in the service box. Alexander attacks it viciously, driving the return deep into Marcus's backhand corner. Marcus reaches it, but frames his reply, sending the ball floating long. 15 love, the volunteer line judge calls out. Alexander's smile is predatory. This is going to be even easier than I thought. The first set proceeds exactly as Alexander planned. Marcus appears overwhelmed, his timing off, his footwork sluggish. He manages to win only 2 games through sheer determination. Alexander takes it 6-2, pumping his fist and playing to the crowd like he's just won Wimbledon. That's what happens when the help forgets their place, Alexander says loudly enough for everyone to hear. Victoria's expression remains neutral, but Marcus catches the flash of disappointment in her eyes. During the changeover, Sophie runs onto the court, despite Thomas trying to hold her back. She throws her arms around Marcus's waist, and he can feel her trembling. Daddy, why are you playing like you're scared? Mommy wouldn't want you to hide anymore. She loved watching you play for real. The words pierce through Marcus's carefully constructed armor. He kneels down, aware that 500 people are watching this intimate moment. You're right, sweetheart. I've been hiding for too long. Then stop, Sophie says simply, pulling something from her pocket. It's his old ATP ranking card from 2019, the one that showed him at number 15 in the world. I found this in your dresser. You're not just my hero, Daddy. You were everyone's hero. The murmur that runs through the crowd is electric. Phones come out, fingers flying across screens as people Google Marcus Reed tennis. Within seconds, the whispers become exclamations. He made the Wimbledon quarterfinals. He beat Federer in 2018. His wife died, and he disappeared from the tour. Victoria stands abruptly, her face a mask of shock. Alexander's expression morphs from smugness to something darker, more dangerous. Time, the unofficial umpire calls. Second set, Mr. Blackwood to serve. But everything has changed now. The secret is out, and Marcus can feel the weight of his self-imposed chains falling away. He looks at Alexander across the net and sees not a Harvard champion, but a predator who threatened his daughter. Not Victoria's fiancé, but a con artist who's destroyed lives. Alexander's first serve comes in hard and flat, aimed at Marcus's body. 3 years ago, Marcus would have stepped aside and crushed it cross-court. Today, he does exactly that. The ball explodes off his racket, painting the sideline with mathematical precision. The crowd gasps. Even Victoria takes an involuntary step forward. "Love 15, the line judge calls, his voice tinged with awe. Alexander's second serve is more cautious, and Marcus attacks it with controlled aggression. His backhand down the line is a thing of beauty, the technique so pure that several people applaud instinctively. Alexander scrambles, but can't reach it. "Love 30. "Lucky shot," Alexander mutters, but sweat is already forming on his forehead, despite the morning being relatively cool. The transformation is remarkable. Marcus moves like liquid mercury, anticipating Alexander's shots before they're hit, constructing points like a grandmaster playing chess. His serve, tentative in the first set, now cracks like a whip. Alexander, for all his Harvard credentials, looks like he's playing a different sport entirely. Marcus takes the second set 6-1 in 22 minutes. The crowd is no longer laughing. Someone shouts, "That's not a janitor, that's a professional." Others pull up YouTube videos of Marcus's old matches, passing phones around in amazement. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Victoria asks during the changeover, having moved closer to courtside. Her voice carries a mixture of anger and something else, perhaps admiration. Marcus towels off his face, remembering all the nights he's cleaned her office, seen the stress medication in her trash, noticed the sad phone calls with her mother about being alone. Would it have mattered? Would you have seen me differently if you knew? Or would I have just been a has-been janitor instead of a regular one? The question hangs between them until Alexander's voice cuts through. "Touching backstory, but this isn't a movie. One lucky set doesn't change anything. You're still going to lose, and you're still going to be unemployed." The third set begins with both men holding serve through the first 8 games. The tennis is high quality now. Alexander playing the best he's capable of, while Marcus operates at perhaps 70% of his former level. But 70% of a former world number 15 is more than enough. The points are longer, more tactical, and the crowd watches in silent appreciation. At 4-all, Alexander calls for a medical timeout, claiming his knee is bothering him. It's gamesmanship, and everyone knows it. While the trainer examines him, Alexander makes a phone call. Marcus can't hear the words, but he sees the threat in the man's eyes. Elena appears at Marcus's shoulder. "I just got word that someone's been asking about Sophie's medical records at the hospital. Security is heading there now. I've also found something else." She shows him her phone. It's a sealed court document from Jennifer Morrison's divorce. She accused Alexander of psychological manipulation and financial fraud, but it was buried in the settlement. Catherine Chen filed similar claims. "We need to stop this match," Marcus says, starting to stand. "No!" Elena grips his arm. "Security is with Sophie. If you forfeit now, he wins everything. Victoria will marry him, and he'll destroy her just like the others. Finish this." The match resumes with Alexander serving at 4-5. He's rattled now, his perfect composure cracking like thin ice. His first serve goes long. The second catches the tape and falls back. Double fault. "Love 15. Marcus can feel the momentum shifting entirely. He watches Alexander's hands shake slightly as he bounces the ball before his next serve. The fear in the CFO's eyes isn't about losing a tennis match. It's about his entire scheme unraveling. The next point is brutal. A 28-stroke rally that has both men scrambling. Marcus constructs it perfectly, moving Alexander side to side until finally threading a backhand passing shot that kisses the line. "Love 30. Alexander challenges the call, walking to inspect the mark. It's clearly in, but he argues anyway. his Harvard-polished voice rising to an ugly pitch. The crowd begins to see him for what he is. Not a gentleman athlete, but a desperate con man, watching his plans crumble. At love 40, with 3 match points against him, Alexander snaps. His serve is wild, his composure completely gone. The ball flies long by 2 feet, and the match is over. Marcus has won 6-2, 1-6, 6-4. But Alexander isn't finished. As the crowd begins to applaud, he charges the net, his racket raised like a weapon. "You've ruined everything!" He swings at Marcus, who dodges backward. The racket whooshes through the air where his head had been. The crowd gasps. Security moves forward, but Alexander spins toward Victoria, his face contorted with rage. "You stupid woman! Do you know what you've cost me? 3 years of planning, of pretending to care about your pathetic problems." He raises the racket again, and time seems to slow. Marcus doesn't think, just reacts. He vaults over the net in one fluid motion, putting himself between Alexander and Victoria. The racket comes down hard on his shoulder, and he feels something pop, but he doesn't move. "That's enough," Marcus says quietly, his good arm restraining Alexander's wrist. "You've lost. Walk away while you can." Alexander struggles against Marcus's grip, but despite the injury to his shoulder, Marcus holds firm. Security officers finally reach them, pulling Alexander away as he continues shouting threats and obscenities. The mask of the sophisticated Harvard graduate has completely disintegrated, revealing the desperate charlatan beneath. Several board members are recording everything on their phones, and Alexander's career is ending in real time. "You're all going to regret this!" Alexander screams as security drags him toward the building. "I have connections you can't imagine! This isn't over!" Marcus releases his shoulder, wincing as the pain shoots down his arm. Victoria steps closer, her hand hovering near his injury without quite touching it. "You're hurt. We need to get you to a hospital." "I'm fine," Marcus says, though the way he's cradling his arm suggests otherwise. "I've had worse injuries. Right now, we need to make sure Sophie is safe. He threatened her yesterday." Victoria pulls out her phone immediately. "Elena, get our best security team to wherever Mr. Reed's daughter is right now. I don't care what it costs. I want her protected until we know all of Alexander's associates." The crowd of employees hasn't dispersed. Instead, they've formed a loose circle around the court, their faces reflecting a mixture of awe and respect. Someone starts clapping slowly, then another joins, and another, until the applause becomes thunderous. "Sir!" a voice calls out from the crowd. "That's not a janitor, that's a champion, sir!" The chant begins organically, spreading through the assembled employees. "Sir! Sir! Sir!" They're not mocking him anymore. They're acknowledging what he truly is, what he's always been beneath the uniform. Marcus feels overwhelmed by the response. For 3 years, he's been invisible, just another member of the night crew. Now 500 people are saluting him, but his eyes find only Victoria's, and in them, he sees something shifting, walls coming down that have been in place for years. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" she asks quietly, the crowd's noise fading to background static. "When I was so dismissive, so cruel about your position, why didn't you say something?" "Because I'm not that person anymore," Marcus replies, his voice heavy with old grief. "That man died with his wife. I'm just a father now, trying to do right by his daughter. Fame and rankings don't mean anything compared to that." Old Thomas appears with Sophie, who breaks free and runs to her father. "Daddy, you were amazing! You played like you used to, like in the videos Mommy saved." Marcus kneels to embrace her with his good arm, and Victoria watches the interaction with an expression Marcus has never seen on her face before. Vulnerability mixed with longing. For all her success, all her power, she's never had what he has. someone who loves her unconditionally. Elena approaches with her tablet. I've just received some interesting information. The FBI has been investigating Alexander for 2 years. They've been building a case about his previous marriages and the financial fraud that followed. Your situation just gave them everything they needed. He's being arrested as we speak. Through the building's glass doors, they can see Alexander being led away in handcuffs. His perfect suit is disheveled, his face twisted with rage. Several FBI agents are loading boxes of documents into black SUVs. The hostile takeover he'd planned so carefully has become his own downfall. There's more, Elena continues. Jennifer Morrison wants to testify. So does Catherine Chen. They've been waiting for someone brave enough to stand up to him publicly. Marcus, what you did today wasn't just about protecting Victoria. You've given his other victims a voice. Victoria turns to address the crowd. I owe everyone here an apology, but especially to Mr. Reed. I've spent so much time focused on quarterly reports and market positions that I forgot to see the people right in front of me. This man has been cleaning our offices for 3 months, and not once did I look past his uniform to see who he really was. She pauses, gathering her thoughts. Effective immediately, we're restructuring our employee recognition program. Every person in this company matters, from the C-suite to the night crew. And Marcus, she turns to him, I'm hoping you'll accept a new position, not as maintenance staff, but as director of community outreach. We need someone who understands what it means to struggle, to fight, to protect what matters. The crowd erupts in approval, but Marcus is focused on Sophie's reaction. She's beaming up at him with pure pride. Does this mean we can afford the good insurance now, Daddy? For my treatments? We're going to make sure you have the best care possible, Victoria interjects, kneeling down to Sophie's level. Your father saved me from making a terrible mistake. It's the least I can do. But more than that, I'd like to get to know you both better, if that's okay. Sophie studies Victoria with the uncanny perception of children. You're lonely, aren't you? Like Daddy was before he met old Thomas and the other janitors. They became his friends when nobody else would talk to him. Victoria's composed facade cracks slightly. I suppose I am lonely, sweetheart. Well, Sophie says matter-of-factly, Daddy makes the best grilled cheese sandwiches, and we have movie nights on Fridays. You could come if you want. We have an extra chair. Marcus watches Victoria's eyes fill with tears she's fighting not to shed. This woman who commands boardrooms and orchestrates million-dollar deals is being undone by an 8-year-old's simple kindness. I would love that, Victoria manages to say. 2 hours later, Marcus sits in the company's medical facility while a doctor examines his shoulder. It's dislocated, but not seriously damaged. As the doctor works to reset it, Victoria enters carrying 2 cups of coffee. She's changed out of her formal dress into jeans and a simple sweater. Marcus has never seen her look so approachable. Elena's been digging deeper, she says, handing him one of the cups. Alexander had plans drawn up to convert Apex Industries into a holding company after our marriage. He would have stripped it for parts, sold off the divisions, and left nothing but debt. 3,000 people would have lost their jobs. Marcus sips the coffee, noting that she's remembered how he takes it from seeing him in the break room. 2 sugars, no cream. You would have figured it out eventually. You're too smart not to notice the signs. Am I? Victoria sits in the chair beside his examination table. I was ready to marry him, Marcus. I convinced myself that companionship was enough, that love was something that happened in movies, not in real life. My parents had a business arrangement marriage, and I thought that was normal. The doctor finishes wrapping Marcus's shoulder. Keep it immobilized for a few days, then start gentle exercises. You're lucky. Could have been much worse. After the doctor leaves, they sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Victoria speaks again. Tell me about her. Your wife. Marcus usually deflects questions about Rachel, but something in Victoria's tone makes him want to answer. Rachel was everything I wasn't. Where I was intense and focused, she was light and laughter. She made me human, kept me grounded when the tennis world tried to consume me. When I won, she celebrated. When I lost, she reminded me it was just a game. He pauses, lost in memory. She got sick right after Wimbledon. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months, but she fought for 2 years. I retired immediately, spent every cent I had on treatments, sold everything. The trophies, the house, even my car. But it wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough. Victoria reaches over and takes his hand. Her touch is unexpected, but not unwelcome. Sophie looks just like her mother, Marcus continues. Same smile, same way of seeing through people's facades. That's why I take the night shifts. Days are for Sophie, for doctor appointments and school plays and homework. Tennis was my past. She's my future. But you were brilliant out there today, Victoria says. The way you moved, the strategy, it was like watching art in motion. Don't you miss it? Every day, Marcus admits, but missing something doesn't mean you need it back. Some things are meant to be left in the past. What matters is what you build from the ruins. Victoria squeezes his hand. What if you didn't have to choose? What if you could have both? A future for Sophie and a connection to who you used to be. Before Marcus can answer, Elena bursts through the door. We have a problem. Alexander made bail. His family has owed money, and their lawyers are already spinning this as a mental breakdown caused by workplace stress. He's claiming Marcus assaulted him. There's talk of a countersuit. Victoria stands, and Marcus sees the CEO persona snap back into place. But this time, it's different. There's a protective fury in her eyes that wasn't there before. Elena, set up a press conference for 5 p.m. today. Full media, all the major outlets, and get Jennifer Morrison and Catherine Chen on video calls if they're willing to speak. What are you planning? Elena asks. Alexander wants to play dirty? Fine. We're going to expose everything. Every document, every email, every piece of evidence about what he intended to do. And Marcus is going to stand right beside me when we do it. Marcus shakes his head. Victoria, no. I don't want the attention. I've spent 3 years avoiding the spotlight. And that ends today, Victoria says firmly. You saved my company, my future, possibly my life. You don't get to hide anymore. The world needs to know that heroes don't always wear capes or expensive suits. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms and sacrifice everything for the people they love. The press conference is held in Apex Industries' main auditorium. By 4:45 p.m., it's packed with reporters, employees, and curious members of the public who've heard about the morning's drama through social media. The story has already gone viral. Janitor saves CEO from con artist is trending nationally. Marcus stands in the wings, wearing a borrowed suit that Elena procured. It fits well enough, but he feels like an imposter. Sophie is with Mrs. Patterson in a secure location. He didn't want her exposed to the media circus. Victoria takes the podium with the confidence of someone who's given hundreds of presentations. But when she begins speaking, her voice carries an emotional weight that makes everyone lean forward. Today, I nearly made the biggest mistake of my life, she begins. I was prepared to marry a man who saw me not as a partner, but as a target. Alexander Blackwood has been arrested on multiple charges of fraud, but this story isn't about him. It's about the man who had the courage to speak up when everyone else stayed silent. She gestures for Marcus to join her. Reluctantly, He steps into the glare of the lights. The cameras turn to him like predators sensing prey, but Victoria's hand finds his, grounding him. "This is Marcus Reed," she continues. "3 months ago, I walked past him every day without seeing him. To me, he was just part of the building, as invisible as the walls themselves. But Marcus Reed is also the tennis player who was ranked 15th in the world before tragedy struck. He gave up everything to care for his dying wife and now raises his daughter alone while working nights to pay for her medical care." The room is dead silent. Reporters who came expecting a corporate scandal are getting something much more powerful. "Marcus saw what none of us could see," Victoria continues. "He recognized Alexander's pattern of behavior because he pays attention to people, not just profits. He risked his job, his livelihood, his daughter's stability to warn me. And when Alexander attacked, Marcus put himself between us without hesitation." A reporter raises her hand. "Mr. Reed, why did you give up tennis? You were on track to break into the top 10. Marcus leans toward the microphone. "My wife needed me. My daughter needed me. Rankings and prize money mean nothing when someone you love is fighting for their life. I'd make the same choice again today." "Do you regret the sacrifice?" another reporter asks. "How can I regret something that gave me 3 more years with my wife and showed my daughter what it means to put family first?" Marcus responds, "Success isn't measured in trophies. It's measured in the lives you touch and the people you protect." Victoria squeezes his hand before continuing. "Which is why I'm announcing the Marcus Reed Foundation, funded initially with $10 million from my personal assets. It will provide support for single parents who are struggling to balance work with caring for sick children. No one should have to choose between earning a living and being there for their family." The announcement creates a buzz of excitement among the reporters. But Marcus is stunned. He tries to pull away from the microphone, but Victoria holds him steady. "Furthermore," she continues, "Marcus has accepted a position as Director of Community Outreach for Apex Industries. He'll be working directly with me to ensure our company never loses sight of the human element in what we do." Alexander chooses that moment to make his entrance. He's flanked by 3 lawyers in expensive suits, and his expression is one of calculated rage. "This is character assassination," he shouts, disrupting the conference. "I'm the victim here. This man attacked me, and this woman is trying to destroy my reputation to cover up her own poor judgment." Security moves to intercept him, but Victoria raises her hand to stop them. "Let him speak. The truth isn't afraid of lies." Alexander pushes forward. "You want the truth? The truth is that Victoria Sterling is a cold, calculating woman who's incapable of real emotion. I was trying to save her company from her incompetent leadership. And this janitor, he's nothing but an opportunist who saw a chance to grab money and fame." The room erupts in shocked murmurs, but Marcus steps forward. His voice is calm, but carries an edge of steel. "You threatened my daughter. You sent someone to photograph her at school. You called the hospital asking about her medical records. That's not the behavior of a victim, Mr. Blackwood. That's the behavior of a predator who's been exposed." Elena appears on stage with a laptop. "I have something everyone needs to see." She connects it to the main screen, and suddenly, security footage from the tennis court fills the display. It shows Alexander charging at Marcus with the racket, then spinning toward Victoria with clear, violent intent. "But there's more," Elena continues. She clicks to another file, and an audio recording begins to play. It's Alexander's voice from that morning, captured by someone's phone. "After the wedding, I'll have 51% control. She'll be out within 6 months, and the company will be mine." The room explodes with questions and camera flashes. Alexander's lawyers try to hustle him out, but FBI agents are already moving in. "Alexander Blackwood, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. assault with a deadly weapon, and criminal threats against a minor. As they lead him away, Alexander locks eyes with Marcus one last time. "You've ruined everything. You could have just minded your own business." "I did mind my business," Marcus replies quietly. "Protecting people is my business." The press conference continues for another hour, with Jennifer Morrison and Catherine Chen sharing their stories via video link. By the end, Alexander's pattern of predatory behavior is undeniable. The media narrative has completely shifted. Marcus isn't just a hero. He's become a symbol of everyday courage. As the reporters finally disperse, Victoria and Marcus find themselves alone on the stage. The auditorium lights are dimmed, leaving them in a soft twilight glow. "Thank you," Victoria says simply. "Not just for today, but for seeing me. The real me, not the CEO facade. You knew I was in trouble before I did." "You weren't the only one hiding," Marcus admits. "I've been so afraid of being hurt again that I forgot what it felt like to really live. Today on that court, for the first time in 3 years, I felt like myself again." Victoria steps closer. "I have a confession. I've noticed you for weeks, not as the janitor, but as the man who leaves origami flowers on the security guard's desk when she's having a bad day. The man who stays late to help old Thomas finish his rounds when his arthritis is acting up. The man who hums Beethoven while mopping, which tells me you're not what you appear to be." Marcus is surprised. "You noticed all that?" "I notice everything about you," Victoria admits, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "I just didn't know what to do about it. A CEO doesn't fall for the janitor. It doesn't happen in real life." "No," Marcus agrees, stepping closer. "But maybe a lonely woman finds connection with a lonely man. Maybe two people who've been hiding from the world decide to stop running." The space between them has shrunk to inches. Marcus can smell her perfume, something subtle and expensive that somehow fits perfectly with the woman he's getting to know. "Sophie invited me to movie night," Victoria says softly. "Is that invitation still open?" "It's Disney movies and microwave popcorn," Marcus warns. "Not exactly 5-star entertainment." "It sounds perfect," Victoria breathes, and then she's kissing him. It's tentative at first, two people remembering what it feels like to trust, to hope, to want something beyond mere survival. When they finally part, both are breathless. "The board is going to have opinions about this," Victoria says, though she doesn't step away. "Let them," Marcus replies. "I've faced worse than disapproving board members." 6 months later, the tennis court at Apex Industries has been transformed. It's now the site of the first Marcus Reed Foundation fundraiser, with professional players donating their time for exhibition matches. Marcus himself is playing doubles with a former colleague from his tour days. His shoulder has healed completely, and while he's not ready for professional competition, he's found joy in the game again. Sophie sits courtside with Victoria, wearing a shirt that says, "My dad, my hero," in glittering letters. Her recent medical tests have shown improvement, thanks to a new treatment program Victoria personally researched and funded. The two have become inseparable. Victoria attending every school play and parent-teacher conference. Sophie teaching Victoria how to braid hair and make friendship bracelets. "Are you going to marry my dad?" Sophie asks during a changeover, her voice carrying the directness only children possess. Victoria nearly chokes on her water. That's a big question, sweetheart." "Not really," Sophie says pragmatically. "You love him, he loves you, and you make each other happy. Plus, you're already at our apartment most nights. Might as well make it official." From the court, Marcus catches Victoria's eye and winks. They've been discussing this very topic, but neither expected Sophie to be their catalyst. That evening, After the fundraiser has raised over $3 million and the crowd has dispersed, Marcus finds Victoria standing alone on the court where everything began. The setting sun paints the sky in shades of pink and gold. "Sophie asked me about marriage today," Victoria says without preamble. "She asked me the same thing this morning," Marcus admits. "Said I was being too slow about it, just like my second serve." Victoria laughs, a sound that's become more frequent over the past months. "Your daughter has strong opinions. She gets that from her mother," Marcus says, then pauses. "But she's right about this. I spent 3 years afraid to feel anything beyond duty and responsibility. You changed that. You made me remember that life is about more than just surviving." He pulls something from his pocket. It's not a ring box, but a worn tennis ball. Victoria looks confused until she reads what's written on it in permanent marker. "Will you play doubles with me forever?" "That's quite possibly the worst proposal I've ever seen," Victoria says, but she's crying and laughing simultaneously. "It's perfect. Yes, Marcus. Yes to doubles. Yes to marriage. Yes to everything." They kiss as the lights of the tennis court flicker on, illuminating them like spotlights on a stage. From the building above, employees who've stayed late burst into applause. Someone has been broadcasting the proposal on the company's internal social media. Within minutes, it's trending with #Janitor and CEO and #LoveWins. Elena appears with Sophie, who's carrying a small jewelry box. "I believe someone forgot something important," Elena says, grinning. Sophie opens the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Dad was going to wait until next week, but I told him that was dumb. When you know something's right, you don't wait. Mommy taught us that." Victoria kneels down to Sophie's level. "Your mom sounds like she was very wise." "She was," Sophie agrees solemnly. "And I think she would have liked you. You make Daddy smile the way he used to. That's how I know you're the right person for us." 1 year later, the wedding is held on the same court where they first truly saw each other. It's a small affair by CEO standards, but perfect by any measure that matters. Sophie is the maid of honor. Old Thomas is Marcus's best man. And Elena officiates with a license she got online specifically for this occasion. Alexander Blackwood is serving 5 to 7 years in federal prison. His victims have all received substantial settlements, and his family's reputation is in ruins. But he's a footnote now, barely worth mentioning in the story of 2 people who found love in the most unlikely place. As Marcus and Victoria exchange vows, he thinks about the journey that brought them here. From the Wimbledon quarterfinals to a janitor's closet, from the highest highs to the lowest lows. But every step led him to this moment, standing with a woman who sees him completely and loves him anyway. "You saved me," Victoria says in her vows. Not just from Alexander, but from a life half-lived. "You showed me that success without connection is just another form of failure. You taught me that real courage isn't about boardroom battles, but about showing up for the people who need you. You gave me a reason to stop hiding," Marcus responds in his. "You saw through the uniform to the man beneath and decided he was worth fighting for. You've given Sophie the mother figure she desperately needed, and me a love I never thought I'd find again. You've made us a family." When they kiss, the crowd erupts in the same chant from that day on the court. "Sir, sir, sir!" But this time, they're cheering for both of them. The CEO who learned to see beyond surfaces, and the janitor who remembered how to be a champion. The reception is held in the company cafeteria, transformed with lights and flowers, but still recognizably the place where Marcus ate lunch alone for 3 months. Now it's filled with a mixture of executives and night shift workers, tennis champions, and single parents from the foundation. Sophie performs a dance she choreographed herself, and there isn't a dry eye in the room. During the father-daughter dance that follows, Sophie whispers to Marcus, "Mom's watching us, you know. I can feel her. She's happy you're not sad anymore." Marcus holds his daughter closer. "I know, sweetheart. I can feel her too." Later, as Marcus and Victoria slow dance to a song that's far too sappy but perfect anyway, she says, "The board wants to know if you're going to change your name to Sterling." Marcus laughs. "Actually, I was thinking you might want to become a Reed. Victoria Reed has a nice ring to it. Besides, the foundation already has my name on it." "How about we hyphenate?" Victoria suggests. "Reed Sterling, best of both worlds." "Like us," Marcus agrees, spinning her gently. "The janitor and the CEO, the champion and the executive, the single dad and the woman who changed everything." "We should write a book," Victoria jokes. "Nobody would believe it." "Truth is stranger than fiction," Marcus replies. "But sometimes it's also more beautiful." As the evening winds down and guests begin departing, the new family, Marcus, Victoria, and Sophie, stand together looking out at the tennis court where it all began. The net has been decorated with flowers, and someone has hung a banner that reads, "Love means everything," a play on tennis scoring that makes Marcus groan and smile simultaneously. "What happens now?" Sophie asks, holding both their hands. "Now," Victoria says, "we live happily ever after." "That's just in fairy tales," Sophie points out with 8-year-old skepticism. "No," Marcus corrects gently. "Happily ever after is just another way of saying we face whatever comes next together. We've beaten corporate conspiracies and won tennis matches. I think we can handle married life." Thunder rumbles in the distance, and rain begins to fall, sending the last guests scurrying for cover. But the three of them stay put, letting the drops wash over them like a baptism into their new life. "Should we go inside?" Victoria asks, though she makes no move to leave. "In a minute," Marcus says, pulling both his girls closer. "I want to remember this. All of it. The place where I lost everything and found even more. The court where a janitor became a champion again, where a CEO learned to love, where a little girl found a second mom." Sophie looks up at them, rain streaming down her face but smiling brilliantly. "And where we became a real family." As they finally walk inside together, the tennis court stands empty in the rain. But somehow it doesn't feel abandoned. It feels like a promise kept, a story completed, a game where everyone wins. The next morning's company newsletter features a photo of the three of them at the wedding with the caption, "From janitor to champion, from CEO to wife, from strangers to family. Proof that love serves no class distinctions." Marcus frames the newsletter and hangs it in his new office, right next to Sophie's purple crayon drawing and his old ATP card. Because sometimes the most important trophies aren't made of gold. They're made of moments when someone sees you for who you really are and chooses to love you anyway. 2 years pass in a blur of board meetings and school plays, of tennis lessons and bedtime stories. Marcus has revolutionized the community outreach program, creating partnerships that have employed over 300 single parents. Victoria has transformed Apex Industries into one of the most employee-friendly corporations in the country. Their story has become legend, told to new hires as proof that every person matters. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Marcus arrives at his office to find an unexpected visitor. A young woman in a janitor's uniform stands nervously by his door, clutching a manila folder. "Mr. Reed?" she says hesitantly. "I'm Sarah Chen. I work the night shift in Building C. I'm sorry to bother you. but I didn't know who else to talk to. Marcus immediately recognizes the look in her eyes. It's the same mixture of desperation and determination he once wore. "Come in, Sarah. Tell me what's going on." She sits across from his desk, her hands trembling slightly. "I used to be an engineer in China before I came here, but my credentials don't transfer, and my English wasn't good enough for the certification exams. I've been cleaning offices for 2 years, sending money home to my parents." She pauses, gathering courage. "But I've been watching the development team. They have a problem with their new automation system. I know how to fix it, but who's going to listen to a janitor?" Marcus leans back in his chair, a small smile playing on his lips. "Sarah, let me tell you a story about a tennis player who became a janitor, and a CEO who learned to see. Then we're going to walk down to development together, and you're going to show them exactly how brilliant you are." An hour later, Victoria gets a text from Marcus. "Come to development lab now. You need to see this." She finds a crowd gathered around a whiteboard where Sarah is diagramming a solution that has stumped their engineers for months. The young woman's hands move with confident precision, equations flowing like poetry. The lead developer, initially skeptical, is now frantically taking notes. "This is genius. It'll save us 6 months and about $2 million. Victoria catches Marcus's eye, and he winks. They've created something bigger than just their own happy ending. They've built a culture where every voice matters, where potential isn't determined by job titles or uniforms. Later that evening, as they sit at their kitchen table helping Sophie with her science project about inherited traits, Victoria shares the news. Sarah Chen is starting tomorrow as a junior engineer, full salary, benefits, and they're paying for her certification courses. Sophie looks up from her poster board. Like how Dad went from janitor to director? Exactly like that, sweetheart, Marcus confirms. Sometimes people just need someone to believe in them. Is that an inherited trait? Sophie asks seriously, pointing to her project guidelines. Victoria laughs. No, baby, that's a learned trait, but it's the most important one we can pass on. As they work together, the news plays softly on the television in the background. A report about another CEO accused of fraud makes them both glance up. The cycle continues elsewhere, but not here. Not in the space they've created together. Sophie finishes her project with a flourish, adding one final note at the bottom. The most important inheritance isn't genetic. It's the courage to see people for who they really are, taught to me by Marcus Reed, former janitor and current hero, and Victoria Reed Sterling, CEO who learned that love sees no uniforms. Her teachers might not understand the addition, but her parents do. And that's all that matters in their perfectly imperfect fairy tale that turned out to be absolutely real.